The dog gives birth to a human baby and leaves its owner in shock. How is this possible? How can an animal give birth to a child? This was the surreal scenario Ethan, a reclusive farmer known for his arrogance, faced upon entering the barn on his farm. Ethan was the kind of man who preferred the silence of the fields to the clamor of the world. Tall and broad-shouldered, he exuded a strength that didn't match the profound sadness he carried. Ever since he lost his wife, Claire, to cancer, he had lived isolated on his farm, far from people and the painful memories the city brought. Claire wasn't just his wife. She was the light of his life, his partner in every step of the way. In that dark period, there was only one thing that still connected Ethan to the happy past he once had: Star, the dog he and Claire had rescued together. Star was more than a companion. She was the symbol of a love that Ethan still kept in his heart. Every time he looked at the dog, he remembered Claire insisting on taking her home, even though Star was so skinny and frail. "She needs us, Ethan," Claire would say, with that same sparkle in her eyes that always convinced him. Ethan's days followed a solitary routine, but something changed when he noticed Star's belly beginning to grow. The dog was pregnant. For the first time in a long while, Ethan felt a surge of anticipation. He found himself preparing a spot in the barn for the puppies that were on the way, checking the blankets, checking the temperature, making sure everything was perfect for the big day. Star's pregnancy, though simple to others, brought Ethan a feeling he had forgotten: hope. It was as if those little puppies were a promise that life could, in some way, go on. Gradually, he began to emerge from the shadow that consumed him. Perhaps, he thought, there was still something worth fighting for. And then, everything began to change. Fate, which seemed to have taken so much from Ethan, was about to surprise him in a way he never could have imagined. It was a cold morning, and the sky was covered by grey clouds. Ethan woke up early, as always, to start his day on the farm. He put on his worn-out coat while the smell of coffee still lingered in the air. That morning's silence was something he used to love, but now it just felt like a reminder of his loneliness. He sighed deeply as he walked to the barn. Star, his faithful dog, usually followed him as soon as he left the house, but that morning she didn't show up. He found it strange, but figured she was resting near the spot where he had prepared a special bed for her to give birth to her puppies. Star was pregnant, and Ethan had spent the last few days taking care of her with dedication, something that, in a way, helped him feel less empty. When Ethan opened the barn door, what he saw nearly stopped his heart. There, on the soft hay he had spread out for Star and the puppies, was his dog. She looked calm, surrounded by the tiny newborn bodies squirming awkwardly around her. But there was something else. Among the puppies was a human baby. Ethan froze. He blinked, thinking his eyes were playing tricks on him, but they weren't. There was a pink-skinned baby, small and fragile, nestled among the puppies and being nursed by Star as if he were one of them. "My God, what's going on here?" he whispered to himself, still motionless. As he tried to comprehend what he was seeing, a soft noise caught his attention. He heard the sound of something moving behind a pile of hay. Instinctively, Ethan grabbed a shovel leaning against the wall, ready for whatever it might be. "Who's there?" he asked in a firm but low voice. His voice echoed through the silent barn. Then a woman emerged from behind the hay. She was thin, with a haggard face and disheveled hair. Her clothes were dirty, stained with dirt and possibly blood. Her eyes were swollen, as if she had been crying for hours. She raised her hands in a gesture of surrender, trembling. "Please, please don't hurt us," she said in a weak, almost inaudible voice. "I had nowhere else to go." Ethan lowered the shovel, but remained on guard. "Who are you? And what are you doing here?" He looked at the woman and then at the baby, still calmly asleep among Star's puppies. "My name is Hannah," she replied, her voice choked with emotion. "This is my son, Noah." Her eyes filled with tears as she continued. I'm running away. Running away from whom? Ethan asked, still wary. Hannah hesitated, as if each word was a painful effort. His father, Tyler. She lowered her gaze, her voice trembling with the confession. He was cruel. With me, with everyone. And he said that when the baby was born, he would hurt Noah. I couldn't stay. I couldn't let him do that, so I ran. Ethan was silent for a moment, trying to absorb what he had just heard. He looked at Hannah, who was clearly exhausted and shivering from the cold, then at the baby. Star gently licked little Noah's head, as if she knew he needed protection. I know I shouldn't be here, Hannah continued, but I didn't know where else to go. I saw the light from your house last night, and I just wanted a safe place. I won't be a bother for long, I swear. I just need time to figure out what to do next. Ethan pursed his lips, looking at her with cold but conflicted eyes. He didn't want trouble. The last thing he needed was someone else's drama. Even so, there was something about this woman and that baby he couldn't ignore. Look, I don't know if I can help, he said, crossing his arms. My life here is simple. I don't want complications. Hannah looked at him, desperate. I understand. Just tell me where I can go and I'll leave. But please don't send me away now. He's out there looking for me. I know he is. I just want to protect my son. Her words pierced something inside Ethan. He remembered Claire, how she always said helping someone in need was the right thing to do, no matter the cost. He sighed, trying to push the memory away. All right, he said finally, in a tone that was more of a grumble. You can stay, for now. But this isn't permanent. Once you're stronger, we'll figure something out. Hannah nodded, tears falling as she nodded over and over again. Thank you. Thank you so much. Ethan watched as she approached Star and the baby. She picked up Noah carefully, as if he were the most precious thing in the world. Ethan noticed she was trembling so much that she could barely hold him. You're freezing, Ethan said suddenly. Come inside the house. No point staying here in the cold. Hannah hesitated for a moment, but knew he was right. With Noah tucked in her arms, she followed Ethan into the house. Once inside, Ethan pulled out a chair for her. Sit. I'll ask Martha, my helper, to make something hot for you to eat. After that, we'll figure out what to do about all this. Hannah sat down, her eyes still filled with relief and fear. Ethan watched her for a moment before going to the kitchen. As he boiled water for tea, he couldn't help but think about what he had just done. He knew he shouldn't get involved, but something about the fragility of that woman and the innocence of that baby kept him from ignoring her plea for help. And so, without realizing it, Ethan took the first step toward opening the heart he had locked away for so long. Star, now resting with her puppies in the barn, seemed to have set in motion something that Ethan still couldn't understand. The solitude he guarded so fiercely was beginning to give way to something else, a small but powerful spark of hope. The days following the encounter with Hannah were marked by a growing tension. Ethan did his best to maintain his routine on the farm, but now every little sound put him on alert. He knew Tyler could show up at any moment, and that kept him on edge. Though he didn't speak much about it, his constant glances at the windows and his nightly rounds of the property revealed his concern. Hannah, for her part, tried to help with small tasks, despite being exhausted and caring for Noah. She was grateful for Ethan's kindness, but the fear never fully went away. Whenever she heard a loud noise, her heart raced. She lived looking over her shoulder, as if Tyler could appear at any moment and take away everything she had. And then, the worst happened. It was a quiet afternoon, or at least it seemed so. Ethan was at the corral checking the fences, while Star rested on the porch, watching her puppies play. Hannah was in the kitchen with Martha, preparing soup for Noah. Everything seemed calm until Ethan noticed strange movement in the distance, near the farm's entrance. He narrowed his eyes, adjusting his hat, and saw a black car parked under a tree, far away but visible. It wasn't common for anyone to stop there, and Ethan knew exactly who it might be. Tyler, he muttered to himself, feeling his blood boil. Without a word, he walked quickly into the house, trying not to alarm Hannah. "There's someone at the entrance," he said to Martha, while casting a quick look at Hannah. "Lock the doors and stay away from the windows." Hannah turned pale. "It's him, isn't it?" Ethan only nodded. "Don't worry, he's not coming in here." While Martha locked everything, Ethan grabbed the shotgun he kept by the door and walked outside. He knew Tyler was there to intimidate them, but he had no idea how far the man was willing to go. And then, like a slap in the face, retaliation came. Later that same afternoon, Ethan found Star lying on the porch, whimpering in pain. Her breathing was shallow, and there was foam around her mouth. He quickly knelt beside the dog, his heart pounding. "No, no, no," Ethan murmured, stroking Star as he looked for any sign of what might have happened. That's when he saw a piece of meat tossed near the porch. He didn't need much more to figure it out. Star had been poisoned. Ethan felt a fierce anger welling up inside him. He looked at Star, who was still trying to lift her head to look at him, but was too weak. He picked her up in his arms and carried her to the pickup truck without a word. Hannah appeared at the door with Noah in her arms, her eyes wide. "What happened?" she asked, terrified. "Tyler," Ethan answered through gritted teeth. "He did this." With no further explanation, he drove toward the city vet, driving as if every second was vital. Star was more than just a dog to him. She was the last connection he had to Claire. Losing Star would be like losing part of himself all over again. At the vet's office, the veterinarian did everything he could. Ethan sat in a chair with his head in his hands, waiting for news. When the vet finally came out, his expression was serious but hopeful. "She's strong, Ethan. It was close, but I think she'll survive. She needs rest and care now." Ethan felt a crushing relief, but his anger remained. Tyler had crossed a line, and Ethan knew he had to confront him. When he returned to the farm, carrying Star gently, he found Hannah waiting on the porch. Her eyes filled with tears when she saw the dog was still alive. "She's going to be fine," Ethan said in a grave voice. "But this ends here." Hannah frowned, worried. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to deal with him," Ethan replied, resolute. The next morning, Ethan rose before dawn. He knew Tyler wouldn't give up easily, so he decided to confront him before something worse could happen. Armed with his shotgun, he mounted his horse and headed to the farm entrance, where he saw the black car again. This time Tyler was outside the vehicle, smoking a cigarette and watching the property like a hunter stalking prey. "Tyler!" Ethan shouted, dismounting his horse and gripping the shotgun firmly. Tyler turned slowly, a sarcastic grin on his face. "Finally, the man of the house," he said in a mocking tone. "You crossed the line," Ethan replied, anger evident in his voice. "I warned you to stay away from here. And now you've messed with the only thing I had left. It ends today." Tyler took a step forward, raising his hands as if unbothered. "You're overreacting, it's just a dog. But you know, maybe I should have come sooner to get what's mine, Hannah and the baby. They belong to me." Ethan clenched his fists. "They don't belong to you. They aren't things you can control." He raised the shotgun, pointing it directly at Tyler. "Get out of here before I do something you'll regret." Tyler laughed, but didn't move any closer. He realized Ethan wasn't bluffing. "All right, cowboy," Tyler said mockingly. "I'll go, for now. But this isn't over." Ethan watched him get into the car and drive away. Only when the vehicle disappeared down the road did he lower the shotgun. His breathing was heavy, but his resolve was clear. He knew Tyler might try to come back, but if he did, Ethan was prepared to face him again, to protect Hannah, Noah, and everything that now mattered in his life. As he headed back to the house, Ethan felt something different. He realized he was no longer the same solitary and resigned man he'd been before. There was something worth fighting for. And he would fight to the end. The days on the farm felt lighter since Tyler had gone off the radar, but a sense of uncertainty still lingered. Ethan and Hannah knew he might return. Even so, There were small moments of tranquility that warmed both their hearts. Noah, with his innocent laughter and curiosity about everything around him, was the force that kept them both going. Ethan was growing accustomed to the presence of Hannah and Noah, and although he was reluctant to admit it, they filled a void he didn't know existed. But then, on an otherwise ordinary morning, everything changed. Ethan was at the corral, adjusting a fence, when he saw a police car approaching along the dirt road that led to the farm. He immediately stopped what he was doing, wiped his hands on his pants, and walked toward the entrance. Hannah appeared on the porch, holding Noah, watching from a distance with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. The sheriff, a middle-aged man with a serious demeanor, got out of the car and greeted Ethan with a nod. "Mr. Ethan," he began, removing his hat, "I came here because I have some important news about Tyler." Hannah, hearing the name, felt a chill run through her. She came down the steps with Noah in her arms, but stayed a few feet away, waiting to hear what the officer had to say. Ethan crossed his arms and looked at the sheriff, already expecting the worst. "We found his car overturned on a dirt road a few miles from here," the sheriff explained. "Looks like he lost control of the vehicle. He didn't survive the accident." Hannah gasped when she heard those words, her face turning pale. For a moment she stood still, unable to process what it meant. Tyler was dead. The threat that had hovered over her like a shadow was finally gone. Was it really an accident? Ethan asked, keeping his voice steady, but unable to hide his concern. "Yes, everything indicates he was driving under the influence," the sheriff replied. "He was alone in the car. Seems he tried to take a shortcut and ended up losing control." Ethan nodded slowly. He felt a mixture of relief and strangeness. As threatening as Tyler was, his death was still difficult to process. He thanked the sheriff, who left shortly after, leaving Ethan and Hannah alone with the news. Hannah dropped to her knees in the grass, holding Noah close. Tears started streaming down her face, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of relief, of release. For the first time in a long while, she felt she could breathe. Ethan approached and knelt beside her. "It's over," he said softly. "He won't hurt you anymore. You're safe now." Hannah looked at him, still trembling. I don't even know how to live without this fear. I've spent so long running and hiding, I don't know what it's like to be at peace." Ethan took her hand firmly. "You're not alone anymore, Hannah. You don't have to face this by yourself. We'll figure it out together." With Tyler out of the picture, life on the farm began to change. Hannah smiled more, and the tension in her shoulders seemed to fade. Noah, growing healthy and full of energy, was the center of attention. He loved playing with Star and the puppies, now older and running around the farm as if they were family. But Ethan felt something was missing. He knew he had found something special with Hannah and Noah, something he never thought he would feel again after losing Claire. He knew he wanted them to stay forever. One night, while Noah slept in his room and Hannah finished washing dishes with Martha, Ethan sat alone on the porch, looking at the stars. He came out of the kitchen with 2 cups of tea and sat next to her under the starlit sky. "Hannah, there's something I need to tell you," he began, looking at his hands before finally meeting her eyes. Hannah frowned, curious. "What is it, Ethan?" He took a deep breath. "Since you arrived here, my life has changed. I didn't realize it at first, but now I see that you and Noah brought something I thought I'd never have again, something I didn't even know I needed." He paused, searching for the right words. "I want you to stay, not just for a while. I want this to be permanent." Hannah looked at him, surprised. "Permanent? What are you saying?" "I want Noah to be my son," Ethan replied, his voice steady. "I want to adopt him officially. I want him to have my last name, to know he'll always have someone to protect him, and I want you to be my wife." Hannah was speechless. Tears rolled down her face, but she didn't hide them. Ethan took her hands, squeezing them gently. "I know I can't erase the past, but I can promise you the future will be different. I want to build a life with you. I want us to be a real family." Hannah started laughing and crying at the same time. "Ethan, are you sure?" "More than anything in my life," he replied. "Yes," Hannah said, her voice shaky but full of emotion. "Yes, I want that. I want all of it." The wedding took place a few weeks later. It was a simple ceremony but full of meaning. Martha decorated the porch with wildflowers, while Ethan, hands trembling with nerves, adjusted a jacket he hadn't worn in years. Hannah, in a simple dress with her hair pinned elegantly, looked radiant. Noah wore a makeshift little suit in Ethan's arms as the ceremony took place. When the judge pronounced them married, Ethan held Noah up and declared, "This is my son." Everyone present applauded, and Martha, tearful, wiped her eyes with her apron. "I never thought I'd see the boss smile like that again," she whispered. Green Haven Farm, once a place marked by loneliness, was now full of life. Noah grew up surrounded by love and laughter. Star and the puppies ran through the fields, and Ethan and Hannah worked side by side to take care of it all. Ethan finally found a purpose, something he had lost when Claire died. He not only gained a family, he gained a new chance to live fully. Hannah, in turn, felt that she had found more than just a safe place. She found love, stability, and a man who valued her and made her feel strong. Life was far from perfect, but together, Ethan, Hannah, and Noah knew they could face anything. After all, they were now a family, and that was all that really mattered. The months following Tyler's death were a period of complete transformation for Ethan, Hannah, and Noah. Green Haven Farm, once just a refuge of solitude for Ethan, became a home filled with life, laughter, and hope. But that change didn't happen overnight. Each of them had wounds to heal, and the journey toward peace was as meaningful as the final destination. Ethan often walked through the fields at sunrise, something he had done since he was young. Before, these walks were solitary, a way to organize his thoughts while avoiding the pain of losing Claire. But now he found himself accompanied by Noah, who babbled incomprehensible words while pointing at everything around him. Star walked at their side, tail wagging, while her puppies, now grown, explored the fields. These mornings symbolized something bigger. Noah, with his energy and innocence, brought new life to a routine once marked by emptiness. Ethan still remembered the first time he held Noah in his arms, in the barn, and how it changed everything. At that moment, he didn't realize it, but he was holding more than just a baby. He was holding a new chance at life. One night after Noah had gone to sleep and Hannah was finishing the dishes with Martha, Ethan sat alone on the porch, gazing at the stars. He held a mug of coffee, but his mind was elsewhere. He was thinking about Claire, as he often did, but this time, the thought wasn't painful. "If you could see me now," he murmured to himself, as if Claire was still there. "If you could see how much things have changed." He remembered what she was like, her easy laughter, the way she saw beauty in everything. Claire had a unique ability to make Ethan believe that the world was a good place, even when it was falling apart. And now, with Hannah and Noah, Ethan felt that somehow Claire had guided their destiny. He recalled Claire's words on her deathbed. "Promise me you'll keep going, Ethan. Promise you'll open your heart, even when it seems impossible." At the time, he thought he would never be able to fulfill that promise. But now, looking at the light emanating from the kitchen window where Hannah and Martha were quietly chatting, he knew he had found a way to honor it. While Ethan reflected on his own path, Hannah was also going through a transformation. After Tyler's death, something changed inside her. She had spent years living in fear, feeling like she could never escape someone's control. Now, with the past buried, she was learning to live in a way she'd never experienced before. Free. Hannah often watched Noah playing with Ethan, and a spontaneous smile would appear on her face. She never imagined she would meet someone like Ethan, someone so strong and so gentle at the same time. Ethan didn't just help her feel safe, he taught her to trust again, to believe that there were good people in the world. She still had moments of doubt. Sometimes she woke up at night with her heart racing, frightened by a nightmare that felt all too real. But when she heard Noah's peaceful breathing in the next room or felt Ethan's presence beside her, she remembered she was safe. The day Ethan spoke about adopting Noah was one of the most emotional moments for Hannah. They were sitting on the porch swing while Noah played with Star in the yard. Ethan looked more serious than usual, as if he were thinking deeply about something. "There's something I need to tell you," he began, looking at Hannah. "You're scaring me," she replied, half jokingly but clearly curious. "I want to adopt Noah," Ethan said plainly. "I want him to be my son, really. Not just here," he placed a hand over his heart, "but on paper too. I want him to have my last name. I want him to know he'll always have someone to protect him." Hannah felt tears forming even before she could respond. "Ethan, are you sure? You already do so much for us. You don't have to—" "I want to," Ethan interrupted. "From the day I first held Noah, I knew he was more than just a baby who showed up in my barn. He was a gift, just like you, and I want to make it official. I want us to be a family." Hannah couldn't hold back her tears. She leaned in to hug him, and they stayed like that for a long time while Noah ran around them, unaware of the importance of that moment. A few weeks later, Ethan made another request. This time, he was more direct. He got down on one knee in the middle of the orchard, holding a small box with a simple ring, but one full of meaning. "Hannah, you and Noah brought light to a life that was dark for a long time. You taught me to live again. I want to spend the rest of my days with you. Will you marry me?" Hannah laughed and cried at the same time, covering her mouth with her hands before giving a heartfelt yes. The wedding was held right there on the farm. Martha decorated the porch with wildflowers, and only neighbors and close friends were invited. Noah, wearing a little suit, was the center of attention, running back and forth, while Star carried the rings tied to a small pillow. When the judge pronounced them husband and wife, Ethan lifted Noah in his arms and proudly declared, "This is my son." The small group applauded, and Martha, eyes brimming with tears, murmured, "I never thought I'd see the boss this happy." Ethan's story with Hannah and Noah is more than just a tale of unexpected encounters. It's proof that fate, even in the direst circumstances, can surprise us in wonderful ways. Ethan, who believed he would never feel love again, found a new reason to live. Hannah, who thought fear would be her eternal companion, discovered freedom and true love. And Noah, born amid chaos, brought light and hope to everyone around him. At Greenhaven Farm, mornings are now filled with laughter, the soft patter of feet through the fields, and Star's cheerful bark. Loneliness has given way to joy, and the past, once full of pain, is now just a reminder that love has the power to transform even the greatest tragedies into new beginnings. Because, in the end, no matter how difficult the journey, there is always a path to happiness, and often it comes from where we least expect it.